Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Happiest Hour on Earth. Tonight it is just me, your host Chris, without my other wonderful, lovely co-host and wife Emily. This week we are preparing for our son's 4th birthday. With that, there's a lot of different planning. Emily has a lot of stuff to do. I should be doing some stuff, but Emily told me I could do a quick little episode, especially because next week there won't be an episode on the normal Friday because it is D23, which goes from Friday through Sunday. And so we want to get an episode out pretty soon after D23. So we're going to wait until Sunday night when D23 is over. We're going to be recording our reactions that night and probably aim for a Tuesday or a Wednesday episode drop, which is very out of the norm because we've always had them on Fridays, but that's kind of a look into our life this week. And that's why it's just me tonight for a probably quick episode, but this idea popped into my mind and I just wanted to talk about it. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comments, or you could hit us up on our Instagram page, letting us know your thoughts. But tonight I wanted to talk about if Walt Disney were still alive, would he actually like Disneyland? Would he be proud of what it's become? You know, what would he like? What wouldn't he like? There's a lot to discuss here, and I think this is such a very interesting topic, and I cannot wait to jump in this with you guys. But first, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click that like button and hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our show a lot, and we're on the way to 1,000 subs, so thank you in advance for that. If you're listening on a podcasting platform, go ahead and hit that follow button, rate us 5 stars, or write us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That would help so much. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this episode. So like I said, next week D23 takes place. It's all about the future of the parks, the future of the movies. We won't be talking about movies tonight. Maybe we'll do another episode about that. What would Walt think of the company as a whole today, you know, with the movies and the shows and all of that. But tonight we're going to be focusing on the parks. And since next week we're going to be very future thinking, tonight we're going to be thinking today and bring Walt in. What would that be like? What would he actually think? Would he like the parks today? Well, I wanted to start tonight with some of the stuff he probably wouldn't like. And obviously we don't know. I never knew him personally. He definitely passed way before I was born. No one I knew him. But just looking at some of the quotes of what he said in the past, videos that I've seen, and we're going to actually be adding some quotes to this episode to kind of either back up or support my thoughts on what he would like or dislike. So first, we're going to start with stuff he wouldn't like today. And I think the first one would probably be the parks have priced a lot of families out. When you listen to Walt Disney, he always talks about a place where parents and kids could have fun together. I don't know if he ever thought it would be at a place where it's so expensive that some families couldn't afford it. I'm not necessarily sure, but we do have some quotes from him. Like one quote, he said, "I have never been interested in personal gain or profit. This business and this studio have been my entire life." And then in another quote, he said, "I don't make pictures just to make money. I make money to make more pictures." And I love that idea because he understands the value of making money as a business. But his whole thing was, I make money so that I could keep on building. And we know this from the past with his brother. Walt was always the very creative go-getter. He just wanted to build. And his brother Roy really had to be the financial person to say, hey, let's slow down. We don't have the money to do this, or let's find other ways to make money in order to support your ideas. And so when I think about it, and obviously a business needs to make those money and those financial decisions in order to grow, because like he said here, he has to make money in order to make more pictures. Or today, the parks have to really think strategically about money in order to keep the parks alive, in order to pay everyone, in order to continue to build. And so totally understand that, me being in a business background as well. But I think Walt would have struggled with the idea that some people couldn't afford his park. The next thing I think that he would probably be a little bummed about, maybe a little disappointed in, is the overuse of screens. Now, I think if he saw the first ride to use screens, I think he would really like that ability. I think Soarin', for example, that is a huge screen dome. However, you're on this amazing contraption, similar to Flight of Passage. You're watching a screen, but you're also on some crazy ride vehicles that really put you in and immerse you into the story. But I think there's some that he would probably say, okay, you guys are relying a little too heavy on this. And so I think, there's certain rides that do that. There's certain rides that do it really well. For example, it just adds some depth to the ride while we still are using animatronics. I think he would be sad about the lack of animatronics in some rides. And so if he saw that there's screens being mixed with animatronics, he would like that. But when you think of Walt and building that park, I always envision him standing and talking to the public about the new animatronics he's building, Pirates, for example, the tiki bird. You guys all know that image in your head as he was preparing for Disneyland to open and just talking about the updates on Disneyland. And so I think animatronics and Walt just really go hand in hand. He was all about using new technology as well, but I think that would be one area where he would feel a little bit bummed out, just the overuse of screens. Next, I don't know how he would feel about the use of quote unquote external properties like Marvel and Star Wars. I think he would be shocked at first by that. I don't think as much with Pixar because it's still within that animated realm and those stories are absolutely amazing. It has the heart that Disney has. And so does Star Wars and so does Marvel in their own way. However, I think he would be a little more shocked at those ones because I think it would take him some time to realize how much they mean to people. And he would probably have to sit with those a lot. And he would probably be a little bit uncomfortable with those being added into his park and maybe even the acquisition of those until he maybe saw some kids dressed up as their favorite Jedi or kids dressed as their favorite superhero. I think that would soften it a little bit, but I think he would probably want some more of the Disney creations, the movies in the parks. Actually, I think he would probably want a lot of original non-IP rides as well. Like Pirates wasn't tied to an intellectual property or Haunted Mansion or anything like that. Even though he loved his movies so much, I think he would want the Imagineers to break out of that. And just a warning, like I am not doing any digs on Imagineers or anything like that. You guys are amazing. You create incredible rides. I'm just thinking, kind of where we're at. And, there's a lot of new things coming out of Disney Imagineering that are incredible, but I think it would take him some getting used to with the external properties. The last one I have on stuff he probably wouldn't like, and I'm sure I'm missing a lot. So definitely feel free to go over to YouTube if you're not on YouTube already and list them in the comments below because me and Emily both love replying to your guys' comments. It's just so fun to hear from you guys and also get to just talk back and forth there. So definitely go ahead on YouTube and let me know if I miss some things that he probably wouldn't like or would like. But this last one that I have on my list is he wouldn't like the stagnant or outdated lands and experiences like Tomorrowland. I mean, you think of Tomorrowland back in the day when Walt was still here. I think it was right around the time that he passed actually, but they had a man and a jetpack flying over Tomorrowland. All these cool ideas and inventions. Back then, it felt so futuristic, Tomorrowland did. Now it just feels like, what is this space? Of course, Space Mountain is incredible. There's some great things there. Innovations is no longer there. I think you would see the land and be like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Also just outdated or unused things like the People Mover track that's just up and nothing's being used on it. I think you'd see those things and say, let's get to work. Like we can't have things that just sit there and just don't do anything. We need to have some motion and we need to fix these things. And I don't know what he would want with Tomorrowland, but he was such an inventor that he would probably want to keep forward thinking. He would probably be working with a lot of great minds today in the science field and saying, hey, how could we do the latest and greatest here? Of course, things have changed so much that anything that you build in Tomorrowland is going to be outdated in a few years. But I think he'd be working with a lot of people outside of Disney to bring really cool projects into Tomorrowland. But there's probably some other areas he would see too and say, this kind of looks outdated. It's just not moving. And we know from his quote that he said that Disneyland will never be completed. It will continue to grow as long as there is imagination left in the world. It is something that will never be finished, something that I could keep developing and adding to. And so with that quote, you would kind of feel how Walt would feel about these lands that feel like they're just left and not shown love and maybe no future plans for any type of change. But let's jump into a little bit more of a positive note and talk about some of the things that I think he would really love. So, of course, I think he would love all of the attractions that he had a hand in working on, but never got to see it to completion. And then some other attractions that were built after that time. So, for example, Pirates and Haunted Mansion. I think those classics, of course, he would be so excited to ride and see. Others that came out, maybe within 10 years after that too, like Space Mountain and Big Thunder, all those classics that we think of when we think of the parks. But if we talk about some more modern rides, I think that he would really love. I mean, if he came back and he was really old, I don't know if he would ride all of these, but I think he would be really, really excited about Indiana Jones. I mean, that's my favorite ride. You guys have heard me talk about this before, but just the immersion from the queue and then also the ride system. He always loved new ideas, right? And so to put a simulator type ride vehicle on a track like they do with Indiana Jones, I think he would love that innovative, spirit about that ride. Also, some others, Radiator Springs Racers, of course. I mean, just to see how far animatronics have come. Like I mentioned, Soarin' Around the World, even though that's a screen-based ride, he would love that because it really puts you into that moment and you feel like you're actually flying or hang gliding around those beautiful areas. Of course, like Spaceship Earth, all those things. Like I said, I don't know if he would be super excited about Star Wars, but I think he would have to love Rise of the Resistance because of all the crazy technology that is in that ride. First off, that beautiful queue, the hologram of Rey, the thinking outside of the box too, had like a pre-show queue ride, quote unquote, with that spaceship that brings you up into the Star Destroyer. And then everything else that's in there. I think that's a great use of screens and physical. So I think he would really love that. There's obviously a lot more rides that I think he would love, but those were the ones that kind of came out in my mind. Another one would be Walt Disney World. He never got to see it completed. We know in the past he said, here in Florida, we have something special we never enjoyed at Disneyland, which is the blessing of size. There's enough land here to hold all of the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. I think if you saw Walt Disney World today, he would just love it that there was 4 parks right now. Maybe we'll even get a 5th in the future, but I think he would love just the difference in all the parks as well. Magic Kingdom, similar to Disneyland, Animal Kingdom, where you could learn and be up close to animals. Epcot, although it wasn't his original idea of building a community where people actually lived, I think you would love Epcot and all that they did there. And then Hollywood Studios, also all the different resorts and how they bring you to these new worlds like the Polynesian or Port Orleans and all those different places. I think you would just love Walt Disney World so much. I think you'd have so much fun with that. I think you'd already have ideas of multiple new parks, multiple new rides. I think you would just love just seeing the blank canvas that he had to work with. And he would, oh my gosh, he would be filling that thing up like crazy with so many new ideas. Another one, like I just mentioned, Epcot and Animal Kingdom, anything to do with learning. We know that he had said in the past that I would rather entertain and hope that people learn something than educate people and hope that they were entertained. So he always loved to entertain people, but he always had a passion for having someone learn something through that entertainment. And I think Animal Kingdom and Epcot are just great areas where you can do that in 2 different types of things. Epcot with different cultures and science and all of those different kinds of things. But then with Animal Kingdom, just the conservation and the animals being up close, nature, all of that, I think you would totally love both of those so much. Another thing I think you would love is just the immersive areas. I mean, there's so many across Disneyland and Walt Disney World, but I think you would love what they did to the park. I mean, one that comes to mind is Disneyland's Fantasyland. I know that they changed it from his original Fantasyland, but they plussed it. They took an already amazing land, but then in the 80s, they did this amazing architecture that was very reminiscent of those old school Disney classic princess movies. And so I think you would love that vision, saying, hey, how could we boost this up and make it look even more lived in? Also, I think you would love, like I just said, lived in. Main Street still feels so old timey. You still have the horse-drawn trolleys and the old timey cars driving through. You also get that with Buena Vista Street. I think another area that he would love, and it would remind him of when he first came over to Hollywood area. But seeing those cable cars and all those old timey cars, I think he would love how it feels very, very old school and very nostalgic, even to people who didn't live in during that time. So I think you would love that feel that they have kept around to this day. Another one that I think you would be amazed by is the nighttime spectaculars. I mean, the fireworks, whenever those came out, I'm actually not sure when they started doing that, but I think in particular, World of Color and Fantasmic. I think he would see Fantasmic and World of Color, both of those. I think he would be amazed at the water and the projections on the water to showcase his movies. I think he would be absolutely blown away by that. He would love the entertainers, dressed up, and how far the costumes have come since back then as well, because they looked crazy and a little scary back then. But I think he would love to see all that performance. I think it would just blow him away because, yeah, he did that with rides and stuff, but he didn't really have big nighttime shows like we do today. And I think he would be, I'm thinking Happily Ever After too, with the projections and the fireworks and just Disney's ability to create a show where sometimes we could talk about the rides and where screens are a little bit overused and maybe it takes a long time to build new attractions and rides. I think Disney just excels in nighttime entertainment. We see a lot of cool new things at Disney Springs, like with the drone show. I like that they're trying multiple different things: fireworks, water shows, drone shows. Like, they keep it very interesting, and I think you would be amazed by that technology. But that brings us to our last point here, and I think this is a very good one to end on. I think you would be amazed and would just absolutely love all the amazing memories that kids, parents, and adults have made over the years. That it's such a staple to families. Also, it's just multiple different generations, right? Like, our kids are going to Disneyland. I went to Disneyland as a kid. My dad always wanted to go to Disneyland, but you get it. There's always like multiple different generations who just go to Disneyland and share amazing memories. I mean, it's so intertwined into people's lives. And I think you'd be amazed at how special of a place it had become. Of course, he knew it was special back then, but if he saw the families going with their kids and then their parents and maybe even their grandparents, I think he would just melt. I think that would touch his heart so much to know how important and how meaningful these memories are that so many people have made at his park. Of course, he would see it's so crowded like it is today. Some people not being able to get in, like I mentioned earlier, with, being priced out. But I think overall, he would be so amazed at what he saw and probably just very emotional that it's touched so many people's lives. And I have to just mention one more quote here that he said, "We believed in our idea, a family park where parents and children could have fun together." And that's not just a park where parents and children could have fun together. It's a park where parents, children, grandparents, single adults who went as kids, all of these different types of people find their happiness and their joy when they step foot into that park and they can just let their cares go and just tap into their childhood and remember what it was like to be a child. And Walt Disney created that place, and that stands true to this day. And I think you would absolutely love that. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining our episode tonight. Such a fun topic, and I want to hear from you guys as well. Definitely go on YouTube if you're not already. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on what he would think, and let's get excited because in 1 week from the time this episode comes out, we are going to hear, hopefully, some really cool ideas from D23 about Disneyland Forward, new projects at Walt Disney World, and so many other things. So definitely, if you are not subscribed already, subscribe. Follow us on podcasting platforms so you don't miss our reactions and our breakdowns from all this exciting news. And remember that we won't have an episode next Friday because that's when D23 starts. We're going to wait a couple of days and try to get it out Tuesday or Wednesday. So it'll be a little bit of a weird schedule then, but we just really want to get our thoughts out as soon as possible after that weekend. But we just wanted to say we love you so much. Emily was sad she couldn't make it here tonight, but seriously, we're so thankful for all of you. And we will see you guys in a week, a little over a week, talking about D23. So we'll see you then. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Happiest Hour on Earth. See ya. Bye.